in these last moments together, but you can do a takeaway. And then here, this is valuable, are the two introductions. And oftentimes it's the shorter one that you find in publications of the Soul Calendar versus today. You miss out on the longer one, which was the original first introduction. The two introductions are quite different. So it's interesting to have both. And I thought we would open and close. Let's do the timing correctly for when we should close.
Oh,
I mean, it's on the program, it's 10:30, but I think we can go a few minutes over, can't we?
yeah. Yes, they're not pushing us out.
They're not pushing it.
No.
It's happened before.
Yeah, well, everyone's madly running to their rooms to pack, and
Yes.
we've got that. Been there, done that. Now, it seems appropriate, since this conference does have a connection with the calendar of the soul, with the zodiac, to actually sound the verse for this week. This is Sunday, new verse, and then close with it. So this is a verse where keep in mind from your little lemniscate that things are coming toward the human being in preparation to receive the Easter event. So this is part of this preparation. And this is one of the verses where something is spoken to the human being. And it's spoken to the human I, ego. So the question comes up, it gets interesting, who is speaking to you? Who is speaking to the human I and making a statement like, here's a voice from the spiritual word saying to the human I bear in you my life. Who is that being? I bear in you my life. Freed from the enchanter's spell, and so reach my true goal. A spiritual being is speaking to you, counting on you. And this is looking forward toward, finally, the event on Golgotha, and the mystery of Golgotha. The refrigerator in the corner has a knob inside that you can turn and it'll shut off. Thank you. Number 50. And this word spell comes up at Christmas as well. So it's a word taken from the world of fairy tales where you have this enchantment and then you have a release from the enchantment activity. The spell is cast, the spell is released. There's a knob in the back. That's the most disturbing sound.
Everyone's hum.
Oh my gosh. Now, the other thing to be alert to is, once again, during the course of Lent, these verses, there's a reference to building up strength. You need it. So I think I've said enough in the introduction about this, where it's happening, but to realize that this being who's speaking to the human I is reaching his goal through you. It's a huge responsibility for the human being. Joy in becoming of cosmic existence, uncovering its strength, unbinding all its powers, speaks to the human I. I bear in you my life, freed from the enchanter's spell, and so reach my true goal.
Translation is over?
And not sure, it probably is Daisy Oldham's. I didn't have it marked.
No, to the eye of man there speaks.
Oh, that
in
is someone
grandeur
else.
manifesting.
I didn't have it noted.
I have 6 here and it's none of them.
Not one of them. There are many translations flowing around. It's nice to sense the mood and the sounds of the German as well. Es spricht zum Menschen Ich, sich machtvoll offenbarend und seines Wesens Kräfte lösend, des Weltendaseins Werdelust. In dich mein Leben tragend, aus seinem Zauberbanne erreiche ich mein wahres Ziel. See, another machine comes on. We thought, just as an opener, at least to clue you in on what you're seeing with this cover, for this calendar, the original cover. So all I'll do is just point out what you're seeing and then what it means when we open to everybody. But at the top, again, this is an artistic rendering, but the ingredients are there. You see those two little beings, Sphinx-like. You know who they are. They're not quite the same. They're facing each other. And the first one has the I, because the word is im, which means in the. It's short for in dem. In the year, in Jahre. So you have these two beings there facing each other, but there are two words there too. In the year, in Jahre, and then underneath you see the year 1879. And then you wonder, well, this is 1912. It is 1879. So you add 33 years, if you start that as the counting time, plus this equals 1912. So the dating is from the birth. Geburt is birth. That's the bottom word there. And then you have the word nach, which is after. Nach means after. And then you have after the birth. And then of the word des means of the. And then right here you have this big E, which is your I, your ego. So this is German word order.
I was going to say, I'm thinking.
What you're seeing is in the year of the birth of the I is what the rendering finally is. You just have to tolerate the word order. And then be mindful of the other little things that are there. You do have above the C of the Ich, you do have, well, no, above here. That is in Aries?
And, yes.
The dove and Aries.
Yes.
Well, this is up to you now to. Then you have this sun underneath the Ich, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is that dome
Well,
above?
see, it's coming from the spiritual world here and descending into the earth and then rising up. So you have this coming in and also rising up. And they would meet there in the eye. That's how I understand it.
So
But
this dove that's below, I mean, this looks dove-like to me, but
Yeah.
you understand that as something rising up. Or the sun rising, well, whatever, go ahead.
That this top dove is descending into the earth and then it rises up. It's this moment between these two steps in Pisces. It's stepping from the physical into the spiritual, from the spiritual into the physical. So it's that something released from the spiritual world into the earth, penetrates the earth, and then it rises up from the earth.
Transform into.
The earth then is transformed by this I being, which I think you could flip it over and say, all right, well, this is the one that was released, that I have always regarded it as. And I think in Margot Rosso, she describes it that way. This is the dove that is descending.
And this is?
Which is the dove?
The V that's underneath the
Oh, where's the
numbers
dove?
And this wings here?
is then, once it's penetrated the earth, then it comes back.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Could this be describing the whole development from the baptism through the earth evolution now with the etheric Christ
Mhm.
in the etheric world? Is this whole movement?
The baptism,
Yeah.
then the resurrection.
The resurrection, and with, 1879 and the beginning of the etheric Christ, and that's really.
Well, no, 1879 is not, that's another angle. But 1,879 years from the year 33. The original Easter, that's where it's dated from. And this is being attributed as the birth date of the human eye in its modern form. I mean, it is, okay. And then did you want to say anything about the Geburt, where you have over the U kind of a moon-like
So
and a five-pointed star shining down on it?
that word means birth. And that when the Christ being, or the eye being, penetrates the earth, that's the first step of the earth becoming a star. That from that point forward, the earth begins to radiate out into the cosmos. So if you place this in this idea that I tried to share, I can't remember if it was Friday night now, about what happens, what is the center, and that the center is a moment in time rather than a point in space, and that moment occurs between the vernal full moon, the first full moon after the vernal equinox, between vernal full moon and sunrise on Easter Sunday, the earth radiating as a star out into the cosmos because of this cosmic mystery that's taking place on the earth is central. It's having its moment at the center in the cycle of becoming. And each year that happens for us during the Easter festival. So I see this is an indication that the earth itself is also going through a rebirth. And we don't stay with planetary consciousness. We do move to fixed star consciousness, and the earth is moving as well toward that. And the Christ event on the earth is the first step toward that becoming.
Do you think the U is a moon as well or not? Or that wouldn't work?
I think that's going a little far. I mean, the U is in that word, right?
That's the letter U.
I think if I were the artistic director of this,
You wouldn't say
I
that's a
would,
moon.
I would have put it there because it's symmetrical. It makes more sense to do it that way. With regard to it being a five-pointed star, which is the symbol of Venus, I have never really put too much on that. Mercury makes the pattern of the six-pointed star, which is closely associated, it's the Star of David that's very closely related to the Judaic tradition. So, I don't know.
Well,
So it
five-pointed
takes
star
the
has
data.
meaning
Yes, other
anyway.
meanings, yes,
So.
it does.
Sacrificial lamb, Venus.
But you'd think that when you held the book, before even opening it, you were
You
looking
saw
at this. So this comes first.
Earth, yeah.
As a
Earth
reminder
becoming a
of
star because of this event that was
that's
taking
really
place.
something.
And then to enter into it rhythmically, through the verses, through the days of the weeks, and the months of the year. So it's all about the rhythm. And because it's not a fixed calendar, you really can have that sense of movement and breathing and pulsing. So not just a fixed, every 4 years we add an extra day to keep it in line. This is a leap year this year. Yeah. So the whole, it all has rhythm. And each part of the rhythm is moving at its own pace. That's also what lends itself to it being difficult to penetrate. It takes Mars 2 years to go around the sun. It takes Jupiter 12 years to go around the sun. It takes Saturn 29.5 years. and we're living within all of that and trying to discern. So this, I take this as a real comfort in being able to, it's an attempt to describe a whole picture that had a lot of variables moving in it.
And those two little beings
Yeah.
way at the top. Oh boy.
With their wings.
Why is one black and one white?
Well, but look at the heads too. One has a little crown, the other has kind of a pointy head. I mean, which one is which is anyone's guess. We really felt that the floor should be very much more open to you asking questions or making thoughts or insights, growing out of the whole weekend together. But yeah.
Herbert and I were at a conference last week, and when you keep talking about rhythm, and I would say that the theme of that conference, which was, what was the name of it? Healing and...
Yeah, it was the Steiner Books Conference in Manhattan.
Yeah,
And it was on the healing impulse, that's right.
And the rhythm was so much a part of that. The
Music.
musicality related to the physical, the human body, the potentizing of the substances in the rhythm. It's just, it's always amazing to me when you go from one anthroposophical thing to another, they're always connected with some profound theme.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from Steiner about rhythm is, "Rhythm replaces strength."
Mm-hmm.
And especially in childbearing, you find that the rhythm, consistent rhythm, will keep a child in harmony.
And that their rhythm, someone made the statement, or Steiner did, all healing is rhythm.
It was Dr. Huseman who pointed out on Friday night that, gosh, you can take a patient with Parkinson's disease and play music, and all of a sudden they're moving naturally.
They can dance.
Remember you did use
Yes,
that
they can
example, they
dance.
can even dance.
Even when they've had
you
a few
just-
drinks.
Well, same thing with stuttering.
Yeah.
Stuttering.
You
Yeah,
sing,
that's right.
you sing, and there's no,
And just that that heartbeat isn't regular anymore. And you talk about two rhythms inside of us, that heartbeat and the breathing of our lungs, it's two different rhythms going in the same, keeping us alive. How do you work with that one? Somebody had a hand.
Can you share, both or one of you, how you work with the soul calendar verse for that week? I know, from the beginning, I read it all through, and then sometimes I pick out parts, but is there a rhythmical way to work with each line? I don't know. I've never, of course, again, it's a living experience, but how do you work with it?
Well, I don't think there's any one formula,
Can you just
but
give
definitely
an example?
keeping to the 7 days, starting with Sunday through Saturday is the way I work with it. And some days one is a little more awake and alert to work with the verse, but at least reading through it is the start, the whole verse.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different aspects that enter in. Sometimes you're troubled by the verse not speaking to you at all. Look at the mirror verse. That dynamic comes back and, this is speaking a little. Sometimes during the course of that week, something in your life is happening that verse speaks to in that week. So that's kind of amazing. So they're just different things to be alert to, but just let it speak to you in the moment. And if there's nothing there, well, you can't force it.
Days of the week, Monday being Moon Day, is there a particular thing within that, a moon
That's
aspect?
her
of-
expertise.
I have never, I don't, to me that would be dissecting it too much, and I do that a lot anyway, so I have to be very aware of that. And I think that and we probably all do this because it's contemplative and meditative, that in reading it, there is a simultaneous listening to one's life with regard to what it is connecting to. And oftentimes, I find myself finding a word that, oh, that was in that verse over there, and rather than going to the opposite or mirror verse,
Right.
I'm digging back in another season and finding connections that reveal things like the 9-month rhythm, or so really to just approach with a listening, add a posture of listening. Yeah.
The other little exercise to do is, to what extent is this verse a metamorphosis of the verse you just worked with last week or 2 weeks ago? And is it a preview of what's to come? It's a different experience to go through the verses backwards.
Oh, to go back.
And what's happening outside in the environment that you're in? Is there snow on the ground? Is it
But
raining?
for us in
Where's the
Florida,
moon?
that's not
But you
really.
still to have a sense, where was the moon? Where's the moon
You
right
just
now?
have to be more sensitive in Florida.
Yeah, you do.
And
You
the
do.
moon speaks, I think, in Florida.
The light
We are
speaks.
using the calendar of the soul verses as our faculty verse at the beginning of every day. And afterwards, what will happen is often just a spontaneous conversation out of thoughts that come to one or another person. And it's amazing how even in Florida, where the weather seems so apparently different, there's really something in the mood that rings true and touches people. Sometimes what we do is we read I saw you had that one with all the different
Right,
translations,
yeah.
so sometimes we'll have a week where we take turns every day and a different person will read a different translation in an attempt to just go a little deeper to touching the mood of it. Anyway, those are a couple of things.
Do you could mention or touch base a little bit in the you said about the 12 days of Christmas? I missed the part of the 31st and being out like the 13th, and
I guess the easiest thing to do is to draw it.
it would be great.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to draw it, so I made it up. So there's this whole question of the 3 days before the solstice festival. So we have winter solstice, and then 3 days later, Christmas Eve, just as we have summer solstice, and then 3 days later, St. John's. So those 3 days should not be overlooked. But the first step is to regard them as a time of preparation. And during this, also referred to as the Holy Nights, we are really just using it as an opportunity to deepen the relationship with the starry world. So we're approaching the Easter tide, which is an opportunity to deepen our relationship with the planetary world. 7 days of the week in our relationship with the planets. During the Holy Nights, it's the 12 days and the 13 nights in relationship to the cosmos and the stars. So, just to create a formula to make it easy to think about it, and then to say this formula doesn't exist. Okay?
Okay.
Just to be clear. I'm going to roll it out there, and then I'm going to sweep it back in and just say, okay. So from the 20, I'm going to have to make it smaller. Give me a
Or
moment.
erased,
Or
the top part.
Get rid of the E.
That's what I do.
No E, though.
Right, so 24. Nope, sorry. Yes, that's right. We could spend an entire weekend just on this, so, sorry, I'll try to make it fast. Let's see what I'm doing with this. 29 to 30, 30 to 31, and 31 to 1. This is the night in question. So, the way I do it is the formula that I use, that I know is used by others. There's a lot of different conversation about which constellation you start with. It all depends on what you're comfortable with. What I'm comfortable with is that there are 7 signs of the zodiac that have already been ascended through the human being, from Aries to the head. There are 7 nights from the 24th to the 31st, so Aries through Libra. And then we go through this mystery on this night, and then we pick it up again and deal with 5 remaining constellations that are related to the human form that is still descending toward the earth. So, what I said was, if you consider sunset on the 24th as the beginning of the first holy night. And then what I would do is at that time contemplate, if I regard this as Aries, then I look back, Aries 2000, I'll go back to the last holy nights, Aries of 2011. What was happening in my life that might have been an expression of Aries? It's just with a gesture of question and listening. It's trying to find the mood. Is there a mood for Aries? There's this whole question about sidereal zodiac and tropical zodiac. It just has to hang out there while I figure out what it is. So, Aries, the first night. Then at dawn on the 25th, so Christmas morning, an anticipation of what will be coming. Now, I am using Aries in the tropical zodiac, which means that Easter is what happens when the sun is moving in that sign. So it makes sense in a certain way. Dawn on Christmas morning to be in a contemplation of Easter. At the beginning of the year, spiritually, is happening then. The second night then will be Taurus. Third night, Gemini. Fourth night, the Cancer. Fifth night, Leo. Sixth night, Virgo. Then the 7th night is Libra. Okay? So that first week, which Rudolf Steiner has said, is a very sacred, very contained period of time. Taking us, so Aries is the head, Taurus is the, I can never say this word,
Larynx.
I mix up the N and the Y.
I can't say that.
Gemini, the twins, where we have symmetry in our body, the limbs. Then Cancer is the rib cage that protects the soft inner organism. When you look at the constellation of Cancer, you see this center cluster of stars. It's almost like something is trying to form there. And then with Leo, the heart. Virgo, if you put the symbol for Virgo on its side, you would see the colon. It's the inner organism. And then Libra is the hip, it's the balance. In its ancient astrological wisdom, this was the relationship with the formative force streaming toward us from the constellations to the human body. Then, I'm going to come back to this night, please. So let's skip over that night. Then, on the evening of January 1st to the morning of January 2nd, it's contemplation of Scorpio, reproductive region, right there. 1st of January, dealing with the Scorpio. What does the Scorpio mean? Then the second to the 3rd is Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and then from the 5th to the 6th, which is the 12th night, is contemplation of Pisces. If you were to go straight through and not set this day aside, you'd end up one day short. Or you'd have to start with the first night on the 25th. But it's always been my understanding that the birth of the Christ child happens at midnight between the 24th and the 25th. So you can't start after that, which brings up the question of what's happening right here. This evening between the 31st of December and the 1st of January, that moment at midnight, Rudolf Steiner says that the soul is released from its folk soul. The archangels can actually hear the intention or the striving that the human being is sounding out of themselves. A moment that can make an impression on the spiritual world. So this, what I refer to as the 13th hidden holy night, that we go 1 through 7, 13, then